The Rip City Drive.
Neil joins us now from, I believe, Denver, I think he was saying. Neil, thanks for coming on, man.
Get out of Denver, baby, go. Listen, you've got to tell this story. And Dwight, listen, when Preston told me you were on, I said it's a done deal, I'm on. But what Preston's left out is when Preston was at U of O and he looked like he was about 12 years old, he got a hold of me. I was there for a Heisman house, I think. And he somehow got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about my future, blah blah blah." And for a young kid to sack up like that and reach out to somebody who's in a higher position. And so I said to him, "I'll tell you what, Preston, you meet me at 7 or 8 in the morning at what was the Eugene Hilton, which they now call the Graduate. We'll have breakfast, and you can pick my brain about whatever you want." And listen, to Preston's credit, man, he showed up that morning. It was me, him, and my buddy Mojo, who I was a frat brother with at Oregon, and I bought him breakfast, and he picked my brain, and he kept in touch with me all those years between then and when he became an intern. And I couldn't be more proud right now that he's sitting at Rip City Radio, because I know this is something that meant the world to him to get back in the business. And for you to be sitting next to Dwight, you must be doing something right, because Dwight does not suffer fools. I know that for a fact. And so you're sitting in a good seat next to the Godfather right there, and it's my privilege to be joining you right now.
Well, Neil, I have to say, the only thing that surprised me about what you just said is that you picked up the tab for breakfast. I'm shocked that you didn't make him pay. God.
I probably wrote it off, though.
Yeah.
I don't think the Hilton was accepting dorm points back then as I jogged over from Hamilton. That was awesome. Thank you, Neil. I really appreciate that, man. And it's fun to connect with you. Obviously, I just thought of you first things first, because we got the Holiday Bowl tomorrow. We got you as part of the Blazers now, and I'm glad to check in, man. And how do you think the Blazers are playing right now? And just what do you think about Dame and Portland and everything that's going on with the organization right now?
Well, listen, I'm an optimist when it comes to the Blazers, and I think after sitting through last season, and last season was the first time I'd really been involved intimately with Portland in a while. Aside from just checking box scores in LA or Connecticut or wherever I was living at the time. So last year, they were kind enough to let me join the team, and I had a ball, and they were horrible. And I had a blast. And I remember we went out to lunch, and I told Dwight and Carrie and Rob that as well. And it was just good fun. So to see them, I mean, listen, they're much improved. They've let some get away that they shouldn't have, but they won a couple early that maybe they shouldn't have. So, they're probably about right where they should be, and they're better off than they were last year. And I think I'd be interested in you guys' take, because I end up watching a lot of NBA through ESPN and all that, now through the Blazers. They look like they appear to like playing with each other, and I think that's an intangible that doesn't get talked about enough, because I watch a lot of Lakers. They don't appear to particularly like each other, and I think I think that gets reflected in the record. And I think listen, you can have teams where they don't like each other where they're still very good, but you can have a team that when they like each other, that adds to their mojo. And I think that's what the Blazers have right now. Just watching the way that they react on the bench, watching the way Dame chest bump Anthony when he hit the running hook over Mikal Bridges. Some of these things, some of the reactions afterwards, they look to be a team that likes each other, and I think that bodes well for them in the long run.
Neil, I think you're absolutely right on that. They're well connected. They do get along well. I think Chauncey's doing a great job. He's trying to get them to play the right way at both ends of the floor. And I think what we've seen recently is there's been a little tiny bit of slippage at the defensive end, which we're familiar with in the past. And they've just got to get that straightened out a little bit. And if they can, with Gary Payton II coming back, I think they have a chance to have a good second half of the season. But what I want to ask you, I don't understand this. I watch you on the TV games, and I love it, by the way. You're a great guy, and you're even better on television. You're terrific. But I don't understand this whole wardrobe thing you got going. I see it with a nice sport coat. And then it's like, The starter jacket. You put that
That's a
on at
sick jacket.
halftime, or what?
That's my halftime jacket, and here's the story.
All right.
I'm down in Seaside. I'm at one of the secondhand shops, and that jacket is there, and I've just accepted the job. So this was last year, and my wife says, you got to get that jacket. You got to get that jacket. And I'm like, oh no, the jacket is pristine. And people who know the Blazers better than I do say, oh, that jacket was like Buck, Buck, Dwight,
Yeah.
Buck Jr. I don't know. I don't even know
Buck
Buck's
Lawler.
real name. But yeah. So his son is our cameraman.
Yeah.
And he's the greatest guy in the world. And he Brian, yes. And he tells me, oh, that's a vintage jacket. And he knows the date and all that. So I wore that at halftime. Now, to your point, my sister said, hey, that jacket is wearing you. You're not wearing the jacket. It's way too big for you. And I said, I know, but I put it on at halftime and I take it off, and sometimes I get so excited I forget to take it off at halftime. But that's the story of the jacket. I bought it down in Seaside to celebrate getting the job, and it was supposed to be my good luck jacket, but we didn't have much luck last year, so it's worked a little better this year.
That's an awesome look on TV, man. I feel like I could just pour a glass of whiskey and listen to you guys talk all day. We have a couple of sportscasting legends. I'm just fortunate to be listening.
That jacket's so big, Preston, you could sleep in it. Okay, that's to Dwight's point.
It looks good. Speaking of optimism with fan bases, you were kind of alluding to there, Neil. Bo Nix returning for Oregon. Talk about an uptick in optimism for the Oregon fan base, and just the product on the field. It's gonna be fun to watch Bo again. I mean, he was a borderline Heisman contender until the injury. But talking Ducks, just your thoughts on Bo Nix coming back.
I'll tell you what, when Bo Nix announced he was coming back, I told my wife I owe it to that program to go down to San Diego to the Holiday Bowl. No, it's not going to work out because of things that got beyond my control with the weather and all that. And but listen, good for Bo Nix. Yeah, I'm sure he could have gone someplace else. These players are able to transfer wherever they want. I guess it speaks to that I think we've all who follow Oregon football have always wanted to see what this Thompson kid could do. But listen, we're not at practice every day, and that coaching staff is, as was the last coaching staff. And if Bo Nix is the best option, then Bo Nix then that's who you should have. And if he's not the best option, he wouldn't be the quarterback. So, listen, I admire him for staying loyal to the Ducks. He played his heart out for Oregon this year. I think you have a hard time finding anybody who's going to complain about what Bo Nix brought to the Ducks, and hopefully he's got one more in him this year, and then we'll worry about next year.
I'm curious what you think about the NIL and the transfer portal and the changes that it has brought for college athletics.
Well, it feels like maybe there should have been some rules in place before they open the door and let the animals out of the barn. It seems a little reckless. It really does, because it feels like the haves have got a great advantage. And listen, to Oregon's a have. And Oregon State's working itself into a have, and Washington State's a have not. And it's just it kind of mirrors, I think, Dwight and it kind of mirrors the super conferences that appear to be building up as well in the SEC and the Big Ten and whatever that third conference is going to be, that hopefully has the Oregons and the Washingtons and the Oregon States in it. But yeah, it just has a little wild west feeling to it, and it's a little unhinged, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, no one knows where college football is going to go. There's going to be a 12-team playoff. There's going to be a couple different conferences that get grouped together. We do know Dan Lanning, for the time being, is Oregon's coach for the foreseeable future. What'd you think about UGA?
Is he being rumored? Is there rumors he's leaving already?
No, there are not. But who knows? I mean,
You're a typical Oregon fan.
I thought, did I miss something today? Today's the first day I was off of OregonLive.com and I missed something.
I mean, you've probably chatted with Dan, or I mean, you obviously are at least very plugged into the program, and I know you do speaking engagements, and you're a proud Duck. I mean, what do you think about Lanning's first year and kind of where the program's at?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. I've talked to Dan Lanning once, and it was on a Zoom. It was a Zoom call for SportsCenter, and it was right when he took the job. It was before the Georgia game. It's the only time I've talked to him. I was able to make it to one game this year, and that was the UCLA game. And we were going to have a chance to talk to him after the win, but we had to get out of there due to our travel, our travel concerns. So I've never got to meet Coach in person, and because I wasn't in LA for media day this year. So I'm looking forward to meeting him. Listen, I think he did a great job. I think we can all armchair quarterback. I mean, I think he wishes he'd called timeout against Washington when Nix was out on that fourth down that ended up blowing up in their face. And Oregon State got away from us too. Listen, and I don't know if that's analytics that's determining whether you go for it on fourth down or not. But a coach has a philosophy, and they live and they die with that philosophy. And for the longest time this season, that philosophy served Oregon well. And unfortunately, in 2 out of the last 3 games, it didn't. But still, Oregon had a successful season, and hopefully going to cap it off with a win in the Holiday Bowl, which would be a nice end to the season. It's not what. Yeah, I remember this from that interview. I said, Coach, how about January 2nd? You're coaching in the Rose Bowl against a Big Ten. You beat a Big Ten team in the Rose Bowl. Would that constitute a successful season? And he said, I'd take that right now, or something to that effect. So we didn't get there. We were close. But listen, a lot of teams would love to trade places with Oregon. Oregon would like to trade places with a few teams.
Speaking of the Ducks, you've got a nice ringside seat in L.A. now to watch Herbert play quarterback. I don't know if you get out to the Charger games much, but that's really something how well he's playing in the NFL, huh?
You know what? I've been blessed enough to go to, and I'm not a big NFL guy. I'll say that right out front, because Sunday, Mondays have been my days off forever. And Dwight knows my wife, and I think Preston may have met her once. And listen, she's too good looking for me to spend Sunday and Monday in watching NFL. So those are my days off with my bride. So I kind of shy away from the NFL. But I've been blessed enough that Ed Miletus, who you fellas probably know, sure, big Duck supporter, twice he's invited me to go to Charger games. Actually 3 times, and twice I've been able to take him up on it. And both times I've been with the Herbert family. The first time with the whole family, and the second time just with Dad. And both games were tremendous. They beat the Steelers. I think it was a Monday night game in overtime last year, and this year it was the first game against the Raiders. And just to feel a connection, because I'm not a guy who roots for a team. I root for a player. So I root for the Chargers because Herbert's on the Chargers. Now, if Justin got traded to the Green Bay Packers tomorrow, I'd be rooting for the Packers. So it's been wonderful seeing him. I dealt with him a little bit when he was at Oregon. God, he was such a nice kid. You couldn't help but root for him. And you can't help but wonder why he wasn't throwing the ball a little more when he was a Duck. Yeah. But that's out of our comfort zone. So I'm so happy for him, and I'm happy I think that win yesterday means they're in the playoffs, and that's what you go to work for, to get those extra games. So happy for him, and really blessed that I've got to be able to see him a few times up close in person. And
it's really cool seeing an Oregon quarterback break through, right? I mean, Joey Harrington, captain comeback, legendary college figure, obviously gets drafted by the Lions, and that's kind of a death sentence in and of itself. But it's awesome to see an Oregon quarterback kind of translate solid success, or very good success at winning the Rose Bowl at Oregon, to the NFL level, right?
Well, and the Chargers had a good one in Danny Fouts out of Oregon. So here, if Justin Herbert can have the career that Dan Fouts had, I think he'd take that right now.
Neil, what's the future hold for you? I'm curious, are we going to see you more often up here as part of the Blazer telecast? What's going on? Do you have any kind of certainty about what's going on in your future?
Well, I hope so, Dwight, because, I've been really blessed with the ESPN gig, and I kind of went part-time ESPN a year or so ago. And during that time, I said, well, how am I going to fill my time? And a friend of mine, Dan Anderson, he said, the Blazers are looking for somebody on their broadcast. And I called up old Chris, whose last name is now escaping me, who left for Detroit.
McGowan, I believe.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, it's McGowan. I wasn't going to help.
Oh, McGowan. Yeah, Chris McGowan. Yeah, thank you. Senior moment. And so I called Chris up, and I was able to work out with Chris and Dwight, a schedule last year where I was supposed to do 25 games, and I do the away games, and I was able to get in 20 of them last year, and we ran it back this year. And I'm really trying. My wife and I, we're darn near 100% in LA, and we want to slice that down to where maybe we're 70% in LA and 30% in Portland, and the city of bridges, Portland is. So I'm just trying to build one back from LA, and the ultimate goal would be to spend more time in Portland and as much time with the Blazer franchise as they would have me. Because I really, and I shared this with you, Dwight, somewhat when we went out to lunch that day. It's just, I'm a kid who got to come home and work for his favorite team. Yeah. And, we spend so many, you spend so many years, writing where you've got to be down the middle. When inside you're rooting like hell for the Blazers because it makes life easier when you got a winner, and it makes the city happier, and the Trailblazers are such an essential fabric to the whole community. So that's the one thing I love about that job is, hey man, I can be a homer, I can call it we, and I can and I'm into it. I'm really rooting for the Blazers to win. ESPN, I got to be more down the middle. So I'm hoping that eventually I can come back and that there's a spot in that organization that I can do something with the experience I have. And I love the gig I've got right now. I love working with Francis Williams. He's a smart cat who's forgotten more basketball than I'll know. And just the crew there that we've got at Moda Center during those games, Nick Livingston, the producer, and then you got old Danny Hyatt and Jeff Curtin running the show on the road, and Brooke, and it's just everybody's really family, and that's a nice feeling. And so I hope to be a permanent part of that family in some way, shape, or form.
I think that's great. Neil, before we let you go, I just wanted to say, your wife is beautiful, but she's also so darn nice. She is the sweetest
isn't
person.
She?
And I would just say thank her for allowing you to be on the show with us today, because I know she runs the show.
She does run the show, and listen, I and one other thing, that about this Blazer gig, what it does, Dwight, I think you'll understand this. Like Bill Schonely was my hero as a Blazer. He was my favorite Blazer, and so to be able to say bingo bango bongo and know that I'm not stealing that, I'm perpetuating it, and be able to scream Rip City, to be on Rip City radio. It's like, hey man, that was my guy. I got to get Carrie's new book. I'm already looking for that. And just to be a part of something that, my dad took me to those first games at Memorial Coliseum in the mid '70s, and at Walton with the long hair, and Maurice Luke. I could still see towards it driving down the lane, and it just dropping it, no look back to Walton, who jams it home, and Jack Ramsey on the sideline. All those things. I mean, it's just. I feel like a kid at 60, being able to be involved in the program and being able to talk to you two about it. So listen, I'm a lucky guy, and I hope my luck continues.
Neil, it's a blast watching you, man. I feel like I text you every time I see you on TV, and I know the Blazers coverage is better for it, and I really can't put into words all you've done for me. So I appreciate you, man.
Well, I appreciate you, Preston. I admire that you stuck with it, because a lot of guys they throw in the towel, and you kept standing up after getting knocked down. So I admire it.
Absolutely. All right, breakfast will be on me next time that happens, whether it's Portland or
only if you invite Dwight too, though, man. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I want another lunch with you where you pick up the tab. Okay.
Well, listen, you invited me to the ringside, so I'm still looking to that one. So I need to get back up to Portland so we can go hit the ringside together.
Neil, I've got a gift certificate. You're on, baby.
All right, I love you guys. Thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it. Happy holidays.
You're the best, Neil. Happy holidays, man.